hard to think of an 11-year-old as a pioneer, but I suppose in some ways I was. I attended nursery school and kindergarten and first semester of first grade in Bloomington in the public schools, and then lost my sight in the summer of 1951. So that fall then I enrolled at the Indiana School for the Blind and was there for grades 1 through 5. And my mother was a driving force in the change that we made. She kept finding out that blind students were attending regular public schools in all of the surrounding states, and she couldn't figure out why we weren't doing that in Indiana. So my 5th grade year was my last year at the Indiana School for the Blind, and I, quote, came home, unquote. They went to each member of the school board, and they said, it's going to come up about admitting a blind local kid to attend 6th grade at Rogers School. And we're not here really to influence your vote, but just to provide you information. Here are his grades. He's academically qualified. We have been Bloomington residents all of our lives, and just talked about me and our family. And when it came up for a vote, it was passed unanimously by the local school board that, yes, I could be admitted and enrolled in 6th grade. In terms of accommodations, it usually was a matter of my mother talking with, in 6th grade, of course, I just had one teacher, and so it was a matter of working with the teacher and making sure that way in advance we knew the textbooks that were going to be used so we could order the Braille editions of them, and just talking through with the teacher how we might handle various situations like the spelling test or the math test. Try taking a math test on a Royal Portable Typewriter. But that kind of thing was just a matter of talking things through and figuring out ways to handle things. I do remember, for example, my sophomore year taking geometry, and my teacher, Frank Smith, made a point to find and ordered, he may have even been out of his own pocket, I don't know, wooden models of trapezoids and rectangles and parallelograms and all those kinds of geometric figures. And I could take the wooden pieces apart and examine them and put them back together and get a real understanding of tangents and arcs and all those things that we learned about in sophomore geometry. My education would not have been what it was without the Delta Gamma sorority, the Theta chapter at IU. University High School was a wonderful environment, but very demanding academically. And neither of my parents had had higher education. I made it through my freshman year, but as we started my sophomore year, I was in deep water. And they were trying to help me with my homework when they would get home from work. And at 8 o'clock at night or so, we were tackling some pretty hard homework. And it was early October, and we were struggling, and it was getting to be a problem. And my mom got a phone call. And a young woman named Judy Cameron called from the Delta Gamma chapter. And we're not exactly sure how it fell, but one way or another, the chapter found out that I existed and that I could use some help with my schooling. And they have, as a national foundation project, aid to the visually impaired. But they decided, in the Theta chapter, that it would be more interesting and rewarding to work with, in my case, a young blind person, instead of having a bake sale or a cookie sale and writing a check and sending it off to national in support of the National Foundation work. And Judy Kay called and talked to my mom and said, we understand that maybe we could, your son might use some help with his homework and with school, and we would be glad to do that. And my mom cried, and even as I remember it, I can barely keep from crying. It was a godsend. And for years we thought of the women of Delta Gamma as my education angels. the last period of every day. It was convenient because their sorority house was only, at the most, a long block away from my high school. So a member of the sorority would show up, and we were given a room, and they would help me get ready for a test, or they would help me go over the handouts I'd gotten that day, or they would help me get a handle on the homework I needed to do for that day or that week. And that continued on for 2 or 3 years, even as an undergraduate at IU. And even to this day, I have several close friends that I met then and have been close to all my life. So the women of Delta Gamma made a big, big difference in my education.